I am 65 now, but when this happened I was 30. Young enough to still believe that love could conquer anything, old enough to know better, but too in love to listen to what my gut was trying to tell me. Honey, let me tell you something about hindsight. It's 2020 for a reason. When you're standing in the middle of your own story, you can't see the plot twists coming. You just feel them when they hit. And Lord, do they hit hard. It was a Thursday in April. I remember because the dogwoods were blooming. Those delicate white petals scattered across our lawn like confetti from a celebration that hadn't happened yet. I was in the kitchen that morning, sunlight streaming through the yellow curtains I'd spent 3 weekends making by hand, and I had what I thought was a brilliant idea. I'll surprise him at work, I said out loud to no one, because talking to yourself becomes a habit when your husband leaves before dawn and comes home after dark 6 days a week. Robert and I had been married for 7 years. 7 years of building what I thought was a beautiful life together. He'd worked his way up from a junior account manager to CEO of Henderson and Associates in just 5 years, something everyone said was remarkable, extraordinary even. I was so proud of him, proud of us. We were the couple people pointed to and said, now that's a partnership. That's what marriage should look like. I should have visited his office before. Any normal wife would have, right? But Robert had always been so particular about his work life. The office is stressful, sweetheart, he'd say, kissing my forehead as he adjusted his tie in the hallway mirror. When I'm home, I want to be fully home with you. Let's keep those worlds separate. And I thought that was romantic. I thought that meant he cherished our time together. Oh honey, the things we tell ourselves when we're in love. But that Thursday, I decided enough was enough. 7 years married. And I'd never seen where he spent most of his waking hours. I'd never met his secretary, never seen his corner office with the view he described so lovingly, never even walked through those glass doors he mentioned in passing. I wanted to be part of his whole life. I wanted to take him to lunch, maybe meet some of his colleagues, see him in his element. I imagined his face lighting up when I appeared in his doorway, how he'd stand up from that big leather chair he'd mentioned, how his co-workers would smile and say, so you're the woman who's made Robert so happy. I spent 2 hours getting ready. I wore the blue dress. You know the one, honey, every woman has a blue dress that makes her feel like she can conquer the world. Mine had a fitted waist and fell just below my knees, professional but feminine. I curled my hair the way Robert liked it, loose waves that caught the light. I even wore the pearl earrings his mother had given me on our wedding day. I looked at myself in the mirror and thought, he's going to be so happy to see me. Lord, have mercy on the innocent and the naive, because sometimes they're the same thing. The drive downtown took 45 minutes, and I spent every one of them rehearsing what I'd say. Should I call from the lobby? No, that would ruin the surprise. Should I bring coffee? Maybe flowers for his desk? I settled on stopping at that little Italian deli he loved and picking up sandwiches, the ones with the fresh mozzarella and the tomatoes that tasted like summer. Henderson and Associates occupied floors 20 through 24 of the Merchants Tower, one of those gleaming glass buildings that reflected the sky so perfectly you could barely tell where the building ended and heaven began. I'd driven past it 1,000 times, always wondering which window was his, always feeling a little thrill knowing my husband was up there, making things happen, being important. I parked in the visitor lot, checked my lipstick one more time in the rearview mirror, grabbed the bag of sandwiches, and walked toward the entrance. The lobby was all marble and chrome, the kind of place where your footsteps echo no matter how softly you try to walk. There was a massive sculpture in the center, something abstract and expensive looking, and banks of elevators lining both walls. But between me and those elevators stood a security desk, and behind that desk sat a guard who looked like he took his job very seriously. My heart was pounding, not from fear exactly, but from excitement, from the nervousness that comes with doing something outside your normal routine. I felt like a kid about to surprise her parents at work, giddy and slightly ridiculous but too happy to care. Above the elevators I could see it, a red sign, bold letters against white background. Authorized personnel only. I hesitated. For just a moment, I thought about calling Robert, about warning him I was coming up. But that would ruin everything, wouldn't it? The whole point was the surprise. I straightened my shoulders, put on my brightest smile, and walked up to the security desk. The guard was a middle-aged man with kind eyes and salt and pepper hair. His name tag read Marcus. He looked up from whatever he was reading and smiled that professional smile people use when they're being polite, but don't really see you yet. Good afternoon, ma'am. How can I help you? Hi, I said, and I could hear the excitement in my own voice, like a child with a secret. I'm here to see Robert Henderson. He's the CEO of Henderson and Associates. Do you have an appointment? Marcus asked, his fingers already moving toward the phone. No, I laughed a little, feeling foolish but in a good way. I want to surprise him. I'm his wife. Now, honey, let me tell you about that moment. That single moment when I said those 3 words. I'm his wife. I said them with such confidence, such certainty. I said them the way you say your own name, the way you state a fact as unchangeable as gravity. Marcus looked up at me, really looked at me for the first time. And something crossed his face, something I couldn't quite read. Confusion, maybe? Concern? He glanced at his computer screen, then back at me, and I saw him open his mouth, close it, open it again. Ma'am, he said slowly, and there was something gentle in his voice now. Something that made my stomach drop even though I didn't know why. I see the CEO's wife every day. The world didn't stop. That's what they say in books, isn't it? Time stood still. But it didn't. The lobby kept moving around me. People walking past, elevators dinging, phones ringing somewhere in the distance. The world kept spinning while I stood there, trying to make sense of words that didn't make sense. I'm sorry, I said, because surely I'd misheard him. Surely there was some explanation, some simple misunderstanding. Marcus looked uncomfortable now, like he'd just realized he'd said something he shouldn't have. Ma'am, I'm Robert Henderson's wife, I said again, louder this time, and I could hear something desperate creeping into my voice. We've been married for 7 years. I'm Sarah Henderson. Recognition flickered across Marcus's face, but not the kind I wanted. Not the, oh of course he talks about you all the time recognition. It was something else. Something that made him look almost sorry for me. Ma'am, he said quietly, leaning forward slightly, his voice dropping so the people passing by couldn't hear. Mr. Henderson's wife comes through here every morning at 8:30. She has lunch sent up to his office 3 times a week. He paused, seeming to realize that every word was a knife. She's coming out right now. And he nodded toward the elevado. And he nodded toward the elevators. I turned. I couldn't help it. Some instinct made me turn toward where he was looking, even though part of me, the part that would keep me awake for years afterward, wanted to run. Wanted to grab my purse, leave those sandwiches on the security desk, and drive away before whatever was about to happen could become real. But I didn't run. I stood there, my feet rooted to that marble floor, watching the elevator numbers descend. 24, 23, 22, 21. My mind was racing, trying to solve a puzzle that didn't make sense. Could Robert have another wife? No, that was insane. Bigamy was illegal. We had a marriage certificate. We'd had a wedding with 200 guests. Unless, God, was our marriage not real? Had I been living some elaborate lie? Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe there was another Robert Henderson. Maybe this guard was new and confused. Maybe. The elevator dinged. The door slid open. And she walked out. Honey, I need you to understand something. In the moment before I saw her, in that breath between the doors opening and her stepping into the lobby, I had already constructed a dozen scenarios in my mind. Maybe she'd be someone who looked nothing like me, and we'd all laugh about the confusion. Maybe she was a business partner using his name professionally. Maybe. But the moment I saw her, all those maybes evaporated like morning dew. She was beautiful. That was my first thought. And isn't that just like a woman? Even in the moment of your worst fear becoming real, you notice if she's pretty. She had dark hair cut in a sleek bob, the kind that costs $200 to maintain. She wore a cream-colored suit that probably cost more than my car payment. She walked with the confidence of someone who belonged. Someone who didn't have to announce herself or explain her presence. She was also visibly pregnant. My hand went to my stomach involuntarily, an old gesture from a wound that had never quite healed. Robert and I had been trying for a baby for 3 years. 3 years of disappointment, of negative pregnancy tests, of doctor's appointments where they used words like unexplained infertility and keep trying. 3 years of Robert holding me while I cried, telling me it would happen when the time was right, that we had all the time in the world. And here she was, glowing with the child I couldn't give him. She walked right past me, didn't even glance my way. Why would she? I was just another person in the lobby, holding a paper bag, frozen like a statue. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Henderson," Marcus called out, and his voice had a warmth in it that hadn't been there when he spoke to me. She turned, smiled at him. A real smile, the kind that reaches your eyes. "Marcus, how's your daughter? Did she hear back from that college?" "She did. Full scholarship." "Oh, that's wonderful. Tell her congratulations from me and Robert." "Me and Robert." She said it so naturally, so easily. The way I said it. The way I'd been saying it for 7 years. She was almost to the door when I found my voice. "Excuse me." It came out smaller than I intended, barely above a whisper. I cleared my throat, tried again. "Excuse me." She turned, her hand on the glass door, and looked at me with polite curiosity. "Yes." I opened my mouth. Closed it. "What do you say? What words exist for this moment?" "Hi, I think there's been a mistake. I'm actually married to your husband." "Hello, I believe you're living my life." I started and then I saw him. Robert stepped out of the elevator, his phone to his ear, laughing at something whoever was on the other end had said. He was wearing the gray suit I'd picked up from the dry cleaner on Tuesday. The blue tie I'd given him for his birthday was slightly loosened at his throat. He looked exactly like my husband, because he was my husband, and also like a stranger. "Tell them we'll have the contracts ready by Monday," he was saying. "No, absolutely not. We're not budging on those terms." He was walking toward the door, toward her, still not seeing me. "Listen, I've got to run." "Dinner tonight?" "Perfect. See you then." He hung up, slipped his phone into his pocket, and reached for her. His hand went to the small of her back, the same way he touched me, the exact same gesture, and he leaned down to kiss her cheek. "Ready for your appointment?" he asked her, and his voice was soft, tender, full of a care I recognized because it had been directed at me 1,000 times. "Ready," she said, smiling up at him. "The baby's been kicking all morning. I think she knows it's ultrasound day." Robert's face lit up. "You think it's a girl?" "I know it's a girl." They were walking toward the door, toward me, and still they didn't see me. I was invisible. A ghost in my own life. "Excuse me," I said again, louder this time. They stopped. Both of them turned. "And honey, this is the moment I'll remember until the day I die." The moment when Robert's eyes met mine and I watched 7 years of my life rewrite themselves in real time. His face went white. Not pale white. Like every drop of blood had just evacuated his body. His hand dropped from the woman's back. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Robert," I said, and my voice was surprisingly steady. "We need to talk." The woman. I couldn't think of her as Mrs. Henderson. Couldn't give her that title even though apparently she had more right to it than I did. Looked between us, confusion creasing her perfect features. "Robert," she said. "Do you know this woman? Do you know this woman?" As if I were a client, a colleague, someone he'd met at a conference once. "I'm his wife," I said, looking right at her. Then I turned to Robert. Or at least I thought I was. Robert's mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. I'd never seen him speechless before. In 7 years, I'd never seen him. Unable to talk his way out of something. Unable to charm or explain or smooth over a situation. "That's impossible," the woman said, and she actually laughed a little, like this was all some bizarre joke. "Robert and I have been married for 4 years. She stopped, her hand going protectively to her stomach. "Who are you?" "For years." The words hung in the air like smoke. Robert and I had been married for 7 years. Which meant, "Oh God," I whispered, as the math clicked into place. "You got married while you were still married to me." The lobby had gone quiet around us. People were staring now, but I didn't care. Let them stare. Let them witness this. "Sarah." Robert finally found his voice. "Sarah, I can explain." "You can explain?" I heard myself laugh, and it sounded wrong, broken. You can explain having 2 wives? 2 lives. You can explain. I gestured at the woman, at her pregnant belly. This. 2 wives. The woman's voice rose. What is she talking about, Robert? Marcus had come around from his desk, his hand hovering near his radio like he might need to call for backup. Mr. Henderson, maybe this conversation should. Stay out of this, Marcus, Robert snapped, and I'd never heard him use that tone before. Sharp. Mean. Nothing like the man who held me at night, who told me he loved me, who promised me forever. Robert Michael Henderson. I said, and I was proud of how steady my voice was, even though my entire body was shaking. We were married on June 15, 2018, at St. Catherine's Church. My parents were there. Your mother was there. 200 people watched us make vows to each other. I turned to the woman. Were you at that wedding? She'd gone pale now too, her hand still on her stomach, as if protecting her baby from all of this. This is insane, she whispered. Robert, tell her. Tell her she's crazy. But Robert didn't say anything. He just stood there, caught, exposed, and I could actually see him trying to figure out which lie to tell, which story might save him. And that's when I knew. That's when I really truly knew that everything, every single thing, had been a lie. Funny thing about revelation, honey. Once the truth starts coming, you can't stop it. It's like pulling one thread and watching an entire tapestry unravel. Standing there in that lobby, I watched 7 years of memories rewrite themselves. All those business trips, the conferences in Chicago, the meetings in Boston, the training sessions in Atlanta. I'll miss you, he'd say, kissing me goodbye at the door. I'll call you every night. And he did call every single night. I'd lie in our bed that apparently wasn't just ours, and we'd talk about our days and he'd tell me he loved me, and I never once suspected that when he hung up, he might be climbing into bed with someone else. The separate bank accounts he insisted on. It's better for taxes, he'd said. Trust me, my accountant says it makes everything cleaner. I'd nodded, agreeing, because I trusted him with everything. With my life, with my future, with my heart. The way he never wanted me to visit the office. Let's keep work and home separate, sweetheart. It's healthier that way. How many times had I suggested coming to see him? How many times had he redirected me, distracted me with dinner plans or weekend trips, or just the simple charm of his attention? The odd hours. The early mornings and late nights. That's just what it takes to run a company, he'd say. And I'd believed him, supported him, been so damn proud of his dedication. All of it lies. Every single piece of the life I thought we'd built together. How long? I asked him. My voice didn't sound like my own anymore. It sounded like it was coming from somewhere far away. How long were you planning to do this? Robert's jaw worked. The woman beside him had started crying silently, tears running down her face, her hand still cradling her belly. Sarah, please, he said. Not here. Let me explain somewhere private. Private. I laughed again, that same broken sound. You want to talk about this somewhere private? Robert, you've had 7 years of private. 7 years of our entire life being private while you lived another life right here in plain sight. This isn't what you think, he tried. Then what is it? I demanded. Tell me. Explain to me how you accidentally got married to someone else. Explain how you accidentally got her pregnant. Explain. My voice cracked. Explain to me how the man I loved, the man I trusted with everything, could look me in the eye every single day and lie. The woman, and I realized I didn't even know her name, spoke up then, her voice thick with tears. When did you marry her? Robert closed his eyes. When? She insisted, louder now. 2018. I answered for him. June. She did the math as quickly as I had, and I watched her face crumble. We met in 2019, she said quietly. You told me you'd never been married. You said, she laughed bitterly, you said I was the first woman you'd ever wanted to marry. We looked at each other then, the two Mrs. Hendersons, and in that moment I saw my own pain reflected back at me. We were both victims. We'd both been lied to, manipulated, betrayed. The only difference was that she'd been lied to for 4 years, and I'd been lied to for 7. What's your name? I asked her gently. Catherine, she said. Kate. I'm Sarah. I know, she said. She swallowed hard. He told me about you once. Just once, maybe a year ago. He said you were an old girlfriend who wouldn't let go, who kept trying to contact him. He said you were a little unstable. Oh, the rage that went through me then. Not just at the lie, but at the cruelty of it. To twist the truth so completely. To make me the villain in a story where I was the victim. I've never contacted him at work, I said. Not once in 7 years. This is the first time I've ever come here. Kate's face hardened as she turned to Robert. How, she asked. How is this even possible? How did you? She gestured helplessly. We live together. We're having a baby. We're married. So are we, I said quietly. We have a house in Riverside. The blue one with the white shutters and the dogwoods in the front yard. We have a mortgage together. Joint checking accounts for household expenses. I do his laundry. I cook his meals. I sleep in his bed. I paused. Where do you live? Ashland Park, Kate said. The Park Towers condos. The pieces clicked together. The investment property, I breathed. You told me you bought an investment property in Ashland Park. For rental income. Robert's silence was answer enough. The questions started pouring out then. Faster than either of us could ask them. Kate and I tag-teamed him. Our pain briefly uniting us against the man who'd betrayed us both. The charity gala last month. I started. He was there with me, Kate finished. He gave a speech. The company retreat in Colorado. He told me it was a solo executive planning session. The weekend he went to visit his mother. He told me she was dead. That one stopped us both. We turned to stare at Robert, who at least had the decency to flinch. Your mother is alive, I said slowly. We have dinner with her every other Sunday. He told me both his parents died in a car accident, Kate whispered. Before we met. The cruelty of it was staggering. The elaborate, detailed lies. The energy it must have taken to maintain 2 completely separate lives, 2 families, 2 futures. How had he done it? How had he kept track of what he'd told to whom? Do you love her? I asked, looking at Robert. Really looking at him for the first time since I'd arrived. Searching his face for any sign of the man I thought I knew. He didn't answer. Do you love me? Kate asked. Still nothing. Did you ever? I pressed. Was any of it real, or was it all just what? Some kind of game? It wasn't a game, he said finally, and his voice was hoarse. I love both of you. I never wanted. He stopped, seemed to realize how that sounded. I never wanted to hurt either of you. But you did, Kate said. You are. You're hurting us right now, I added. Every second of this is hurt. Marcus had been standing there the whole time, and now he spoke up quietly. Mr. Henderson, I think you need to leave. I work here, Robert said automatically. Not anymore, you don't, Kate said, and there was steel in her voice now. My father owns this company, Robert. Or did you forget that part when you were busy living your double life? Oh no. I'd known Henderson and Associates was a family business, but I'd thought it was Robert's family. He'd always talked about building it up, about making it what it was today. Your father? I said to Kate. She nodded, tears still streaming down her face. James Henderson. He gave Robert the CEO position when we got engaged. Said he wanted his future son-in-law to have a title worthy of marrying his daughter. Robert's face was ashen now. I could actually see him calculating, trying to figure out how to salvage something from this wreckage. Kate, he said, turning to her, and his voice had taken on that smooth, persuasive tone I knew so well. Baby, please. Think about our child. Think about our family. Our family? Kate's voice rose. You mean the family you built on lies? The family that isn't even legally real because you're still married to her. She was right. The realization hit me and her at the same time. If Robert and I were married first, then his marriage to Kate was void. Which meant, your baby is going to be born out of wedlock, I said quietly, to a father who's married to someone else. Kate's hand went to her stomach again, and the look on her face broke something in me. Despite everything, despite the fact that she'd been living the life I thought was mine, sleeping with my husband, wearing his ring, I felt sorry for her. We were both victims here. I want a divorce, I said. The words came out clear and strong, and I was surprised by my own certainty. 5 minutes ago, I thought I had a happy marriage. 5 minutes ago, I'd been bringing my husband lunch. Now I was ending it all with 3 words. Sarah, wait, Robert started. No, I cut him off. No waiting. No explanations. No second chances. I want a divorce. Today. Now. You can't just. Yes, I can't, I said. And I am. I turned to Kate. He's all yours. Or not. That's up to you. But I'm done. I started to walk toward the door, then stopped. There was something I needed to know. The trying for a baby, I said to Robert, not looking at him. The 3 years of trying, of doctor's appointments, of me thinking there was something wrong with me. Were you even? I couldn't finish the sentence. I had a vasectomy, he said quietly, before we got married. The floor tilted under me. I grabbed the back of a nearby chair to steady myself. 3 years. 3 years of thinking my body was failing me, of feeling like I couldn't give him what he wanted, of watching him comfort me through tears while knowing that it was all a lie, that it was his choice, his betrayal, his manipulation. You let me think I was broken, I whispered. Sarah, you let me blame myself. I never said it was your fault. You never said it was yours. The words exploded out of me. You sat there through every appointment, every test, every invasive procedure, and you never once told me the truth. You let me hate my own body because telling the truth would have exposed your lies. Kate was staring at Robert like she'd never seen him before. You did that, she breathed. How could you do that? I thought. Robert started, then stopped. Started again. I thought if Sarah got pregnant it would complicate things. Make it harder to juggle your 2 lives? I finished. To keep your lies straight? God, Robert. How did I never see it? How did I spend 7 years with you and never once suspect that every word out of your mouth was a lie? Not every word, he said weakly. Name one truth. I challenged him. One single truth you've told me in 7 years. He couldn't. Of course he couldn't. I walked out of that building with my head high, leaving behind the paper bag with our sandwiches, leaving behind the man I thought I knew, leaving behind the life I thought I had. I made it to my car before I started shaking. Made it home before I started crying. Made it to the bedroom. Our bedroom, with the yellow curtains and the photos on the dresser and the life I'd built, before I fell apart completely. But honey, here's what I learned that day. You can fall apart and still survive. You can have your entire world collapse and still wake up the next morning. You can lose everything you thought you had and discover that you're still standing. The divorce took 8 months. Robert tried to contest it at first, tried to claim that it was all a misunderstanding, that we could work through it. But I was done. Done with his lies, done with his manipulation, done with trying to salvage something that had never been real in the first place. Kate left him too. Had her baby, a beautiful girl named Emma, and raised her on her own. I know because I reached out to her about 6 months after everything happened. We met for coffee, 2 women who'd loved the same man and been betrayed by him in different ways. We're not friends, not exactly. But we're something. Survivors, maybe. Witnesses to each other's pain and healing. Robert lost everything, both wives, his job. James Henderson made sure he never worked in their industry again. His reputation. I heard he moved to another state, started over somewhere fresh where people didn't know his story. As for me, honey, I survived. More than survived. I built a new life, a real life this time, built on truth instead of lies. It took time. It took therapy and tears and more anger than I knew one person could hold. But I made it through. I'm 65 now, and I can look back on that day with something like peace. Not forgiveness. I don't think I'll ever forgive what Robert did, the cruelty of it, the cold calculation. But peace with my own part in it, with the fact that I loved truly even if I was lied to. Here's what I want you to understand, honey, if you take nothing else from my story. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. All those times I wanted to visit Robert's office and didn't. All those times I thought it was strange that he kept such rigid boundaries between his work and home life. My gut knew. But I ignored it because I wanted to believe in the fairy tale. Love shouldn't require you to ignore your instincts. Real love welcomes your questions, your presence, your full participation in every part of life. If someone is keeping you at arm's length from whole sections of their world, ask why. And don't accept "I want to keep things separate" as an answer, because sometimes separate means secret, and secret means lie. If this story touched your heart, so don't forget to subscribe this channel for more videos.